I want to start by saying that this decision is an affront to all the folks who have raised countless concerns around the impacts to the environment, the increased risk posed by a 7-fold increase in tanker traffic, how to date we still do not have a plan to clean diluted bitumen oil spills, and the fact that one oil spill could mean devastation for the coastline, for the marine diversity, for the biodiversity, and for the thousands of jobs that depend on the coastlines. This is deeply concerning, particularly given that those environmental concerns aren't addressed still. They remain to be addressed. And finally, because the Indigenous concerns that were raised are still present, the fact that the decision was made before the consultations occurred, that is not meaningful in terms of consultations when the decision has been predetermined before meeting with the people impacted. Those concerns continue. We have opposed this project, believe it is harmful to the coastline, harmful to people, harmful to workers, and is not good for the province of BC or for Canada. Donc, on a déjà mentionné notre opposition de ce projet. Ça va être un projet qui va être quelque chose de tellement mauvais pour les travailleurs et travailleuses parce que une fuite de l'huile bituminée, c'est quelque chose qu'on ne peut pas régler. On n'a pas la preuve pour comment on peut faire face à une fuite comme ça. Ça menace la côte, ça menace la biodiversité. Donc, c'est quelque chose qui est tellement mauvais et ça va empirer notre situation pour réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Donc, c'est quelque chose qu'on a s'opposé, on continue de s'opposer ce projet et on va travailler fort pour avoir une voix forte contre ce projet. Après, I want to now have additional voices from my caucus. Alexander Boudouris and Peter Julian will add additional comments on behalf of our caucus on the perspectives of the environment and the fiscal viability of this project.
Merci. Merci, Jagmeet. Merci tout le monde. Je pense qu'on a une décision qui ne surprend pas personne, qui étonne pas personne aujourd'hui, mais qui est quand même assez révélatrice des capacités des libéraux de dire une chose puis de faire son contraire. Moins de 24 heures après avoir fait adopter leur motion sur l'urgence climatique en Chambre, ils annoncent qu'ils vont aller de l'avant avec le fait de construire un nouveau pipeline qui va tripler la production de sable bitumineux, qui va augmenter nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre puis notre empreinte carbone. C'est qui va complètement à l'inverse de tout leur discours puis de ce que Mme McKenna n'arrête pas de marteler en disant qu'il faut prendre soin des générations futures. On sait que le bilan des gouvernements libéraux sur les émissions de gaz à effet de serre est déjà désastreux. On s'éloigne année après année des pauvres cibles du gouvernement conservateur de Stephen Harper. Ça va juste accentuer le problème. Alors, c'est vraiment une mauvaise décision qu'on a prise aujourd'hui. Nous, au NPD, on est très déçus de ça. On n'est malheureusement pas surpris, mais ça montre l'hypocrisie du gouvernement libéral. Et je tiens à dire aujourd'hui qu'il n'y a pas un environnementaliste qui peut prétendre que le gouvernement de Justin Trudeau prend au sérieux la lutte au changement climatique. Ça ne serait pas honnête de dire une chose pareille suite à la décision qu'on a eue aujourd'hui. Merci.
Well, it is an outrageous and irresponsible decision. So let's dissect what the Prime Minister and his colleagues just said in this press theater a few minutes ago. First off, he talked about the profits from the TransMountain pipeline serving to develop renewable technologies. And we know that TransMountain is already money losing. And the finance minister played a little sleight of hand last year in trying to pretend that before the interest charges actually meant that it was a profitable enterprise. The reality is it's losing over $150 million this year. Now, the idea that eventually TransMountain, after the billions of dollars that taxpayers will have to invest, will return to some kind of profitability is an illusion. Secondly, when we talk about jobs, our Liberal colleagues talked about eventually that there would be jobs created in British Columbia. But once you get past the construction phase, there are only 60 full-time permanent positions available in British Columbia. Now, couple that with the fact that the refinery workers at the last refinery in Burnaby, British Columbia, Parkland refinery, are actually opposed to the TransMountain project because of the fact that there is no preferential feedstock allowed to them. They will have to close their oil refinery. And, as our leader has just said, the threat that it poses to thousands of jobs in the fishery and tourism in British Columbia there is no way to actually talk about any sort of concrete employment benefits to British Columbia. So let's get to the third point, which is that the actual cost of construction is escalating. The Finance Ministry has not even done or developed any sort of costing, but most estimates have the actual construction cost escalating to about $12 billion. Couple that with the $4.5 billion that taxpayers had to pay for the acquisition of the company. We're now talking about a potentially $17 billion project. And as David Anderson said so eloquently, the business case for this pipeline simply is not there. Impacts on the environment, there are profound negative impacts as well, and threats to jobs. This is simply not a project that makes any sense. Alors qu'on en parle de tous les impacts, les menaces que ça pose aux emplois en Colombie-Britannique, dans les pêches et le tourisme, on en parle du fait que, on parle effectivement de 60 emplois à temps plein une fois qu'on a passé à travers la phase de construction. Le fait que TransMountain perd de l'argent maintenant, 150 millions de dollars cette année, et les coûts de construction qui s'élèvent autour de 17 milliards de dollars, mais on ne sait pas parce que le ministère des Finances n'a jamais fait une évaluation là-dessus. Alors, toutes ces choses-là, on peut dire qu'effectivement, les risques sont trop grands et c'est une décision qui est irresponsable.
Now, I want to also invite Rachel Blaney, who represents Vancouver Island. On the island, the people who will be impacted by a potential oil spill, the coastal workers, folks who work in tourism. Rachel Blaney will talk about the impacts to her constituents and the people that would be impacted on the island. Rachel.
So I'm Rachel Blaney, the Member of Parliament for North Island, Powell River. And as a member that represents the British Columbia coastline, this is a decision that concerns me deeply. When I look at the reality on the ground of people, where we work closely in the ocean, where we have our jobs and our food source coming from that place, and we know that this federal government still has not made its commitment in any way to have an oil response. When we look at marine life, when we look at the future and our economy in British Columbia, this is a decision that could potentially harm it greatly. And we're in Canada. We shouldn't be looking at jobs for one part and fighting against another part. We should be coming together to create solutions that make sense. This is a house of cards that the Liberals have made a decision. It's putting too much at risk, and we need to speak up. And I can tell you that the members of British Columbia will be speaking loudly against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, colleagues, for efficiency's sake, I have 5 of you. If we don't all have to ask questions, that's great. But I'm starting with Molly Thomas of CTV National News.
Molly?
Mr. Singh, I can hear your frustration, but I think there's people breathing a sigh of relief in Alberta today. What would you say to those people in terms of the fact that some of them are going to have livelihoods again if this is built?
Well, the reality is that the people in Alberta, the hardworking men and women who earn a living in the oil and gas sector, have gone through busts and booms time and time before. They've gone through times when times are good, and they've gone through difficult moments. And it would be irresponsible of a government not to realize the volatility of this sector, the volatility of those jobs, and not make investments today to ensure that they have a bright future. Because we don't know if that future will continue in this sector. We know that it's very volatile. And that's why we're making decisions to invest. Our decisions would be to invest in a long-term sustainable future where there are good paying jobs, quality jobs, fighting climate change, but also ensuring that those workers are never left behind. That would be a responsible way to move forward, a responsible use of something that looks like $17 billion. There's a far better way to ensure that there's a viable sector for people to work, that we reduce our emissions, and that we create a long-term viability. That's not what this project will do, and that's not what the Liberal government's doing.
To outdo the economy?
Well, I think that we've got to consider the long-term viability of a sector and make decisions that create long-term employment. And there isn't that confidence in the trends we've seen that will ensure that those hardworking men and women in Alberta will have a bright future unless there is investments in long-term sustainable jobs. This project is not a long-term sustainable project. It is not something that creates jobs that will be long-lasting. There is an uncertain business case at best. There is uncertainty whether this will create jobs for workers. And what we're proposing is we need to make investments today in creating that long-term viable future that creates jobs and opportunities, and make sure that workers that are going through upheaval are supported and we propose projects and strategies to ensure that workers receive training, receive income supplements to make sure that workers are protected, communities aren't left behind. This project will not do any of that.
Mathieu Goyer, Radio-Canada.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez, M. Singh, de la promesse des libéraux de réinvestir tous les profits de TransMountain dans la transition énergétique vers une économie sans carbone?
La promesse est ridicule parce qu'on a un projet on ne sait pas si ça va gagner d'argent. Le cas pour la finance, dans le cas financier, ce n'est pas là. C'est tellement pas clair si on va avoir un projet qui peut gagner l'argent en général. Donc, l'idée d'avoir un peut-être potentiel investissement, au lieu d'investir directement dans l'énergie renouvelable, de créer des emplois de maintenant dans les secteurs renouvelables. C'est aucun sens de faire c'est comme un gamble en fait pour quelque chose qu'on ne sait pas s'il va continuer à fonctionner, gagner l'argent, au lieu de faire les investissements directement.
M. Trudeau dit que la question de l'urne de la prochaine élection va porter spécifiquement sur la question de l'environnement en disant que son parti a une réponse pour la croissance économique et protéger l'environnement. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez à M. Trudeau qui dit que le NDP n'a pas de plan pour l'économie, n'a pas de plan pour les ressources naturelles canadiennes?
Notre plan pour défendre l'environnement, c'est un plan pour créer des emplois. On prévise presque 300 000 emplois seulement dans notre plan pour s'attaquer au changement climatique, donc 300 000 emplois là. Puis, on a un plan pour bâtir des nouveaux logements abordables qui va créer des emplois aussi. Notre plan pour les rénovations éco-énergétiques pour les maisons, ça, c'est un plan pour créer des emplois dans les communautés. Donc, notre plan, c'est un plan pour créer des emplois parce qu'on sait on ne peut pas s'attaquer au changement climatique sans créer des emplois, des qualités, des milliers d'emplois. Il faut travailler ensemble pour s'attaquer à ce problème. Donc, notre plan, c'est un plan pour l'environnement, pour l'économie. C'est clair avec des mesures concrètes, des mesures qui vont créer des emplois dans les communautés, dans chaque communauté à travers le pays, avec des protections pour les travailleurs et les travailleuses et pour les communautés qui sont impactées par le changement, la transition vers une économie renouvelable, une économie durable. Donc, on a un plan et on a des mesures concrètes pour aider les gens.
Cochrane.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Mr. Scheer just stood there and says he doesn't believe Justin Trudeau really wants to build this pipeline, despite the political capital and the actual capital that is expended on it so far. And you're here saying that they're going to ram it through despite any environmental concerns. You can't both be right. Is it possible that maybe he's found a middle ground here in the approach that he's taken, or is he being completely disingenuous?
I don't know how there's a middle ground when you purchase a pipeline and then approve it. It's pretty clear what they're doing. They bought the pipeline, and now they just approve the expansion. So it's clear what they're doing. The Conservatives don't understand the impact to the environment. They don't understand all the fatal flaws with the business case. So it seems to me that they're very short-sighted in their vision. Our plan is very clear. We know that the future is a future where we have access to renewable energy. The future around the world, we're seeing the trends that people are moving towards the electrification of transportation, moving towards electric vehicles, moving towards renewable energy. So let's make those investments and be a world leader. Let's not fall behind. Let's make investments so our economy is forward-thinking, so our economy is long-lasting, is sustainable for the future. That's what our plan is. Let's create thousands and thousands of jobs, fighting climate change, and creating great opportunities for quality work. That's the way forward.
So assuming this pipeline is going to go ahead, as Mr. Trudeau has said, should this be the country's final pipeline of any kind?
Well, our perspective on how we move forward with energy projects has to be, I think, threefold. First off, we have to look at any project and say, does it fit within our plan to reduce emissions? Does it fit within our climate change plan and our plan to attack one of the biggest and most urgent struggles that we're faced with? Secondly, does the energy project create jobs in our communities, in Canada? Does it create local jobs? And finally, does the project respect Indigenous rights? If a project can do all three, then it's a project that can go ahead. If it does not, then it should not go ahead because it does not benefit our planet, it doesn't benefit our country, it doesn't benefit people, and then it should not be going ahead.
Peter Hill Times.
So the federal government now owns the existing pipeline and has approved the expansion. If you win government in the fall, what will you do with the pipeline that you own, and what would you do about the approval?
We would not move ahead with this project. We would immediately end any construction and moving forward with this project. Secondly, what we would do is we would evaluate the asset that we have and look to measures that we can take to responsibly move forward in a way that gets rid of this pipeline that Canadians didn't want, Canadians didn't decide to own. That was a very poor decision, a very poor fiscal decision, a very poor financial decision. We'd assess the value of the asset and make a decision moving forward that we could better use the resources that the Canadians have entrusted us to use.
So just following up on that, you mentioned getting rid of the pipeline, but we're $4.5 billion taxpayer dollars in. I presume the only way to get rid of it and recoup some of that would be to sell it to someone who wants to use it. Am I wrong?
Well, I would say what we need to do is first make find out have a financial assessment of what the asset is and what the value is. We don't know exactly what we purchase. I don't have all the access to the information around what is exactly that we own and what is its valuation. Once we have the sense of what we own and what the value of that asset is, then we make a determination moving forward. To be clear, this is not a pipeline that I think that Canada should own. It didn't make sense that we own it. Now that we do, we've got to make the best decision that gives the best value for money, that we can move forward in a way that's responsible, that fits within our climate change targets, that fits within our vision for where we need to go as a country. It is not in owning a pipeline. It is investing in renewable energy. We need to make a responsible decision how we, one, immediately end the further expansion, and secondly, how we assess the value of this asset and move towards a direction where we're not contributing to climate change, where we're actually moving towards investing in renewable energy.
Can I just add something? I mean, we're losing $150 million a year. So Mr. Scheer and Mr. Trudeau would love to continue to send good money after bad. And that's got to be part of our financial evaluation.
So I think our last question is Bruce Campion-Smith at the Toronto Star.
Mr. Singh, good afternoon. Just wondering in the short term for your party and other opponents of the pipeline, is this a done deal, this announcement today, or do you see other recourse to either through the courts, through civil disobedience to stop this?
There's an ongoing question that's in front of the Supreme Court that's been put to the Supreme Court by the government of BC. That is one tool that remains. The outcome of that will have an impact on whether this project can go ahead. I know there might be other considerations in terms of other legal tools that communities can bring forward to raise concerns around the project. If we were government, we would not go ahead with this and we would oppose it. We are hoping that this is something that weighs into the minds of voters in the election, that they know that with New Democrats, they can be assured that this is not something that we believe in. We do not believe that this is the right direction for our country, that risking the 7-fold increase in tanker traffic is not the right choice, that putting the coast at risk is not the right decision, and that risking thousands of jobs in tourism and fisheries is not the right way to go. So people can have the confidence if they vote New Democrat, they'll know that we are opposed to this and we will not go ahead with it.
Just follow, if there was a minority government elected in October and your party was in place to perhaps support sort of the minority government, would you make the stopping the expansion of the pipeline a condition of your support?
I don't want to presuppose the outcome of the election. I'm looking to form government and to become Prime Minister and have some ministers standing behind me. But I can tell you that our values are this, that we would not go ahead with this project. We would not allow this project to continue. That is what we would do. In any shape or form the government takes, as government, that would be our decision.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Thank you. Merci.